feel like everything, damn, I don't want to say like everything happened for a reason, but like everything
Right.
just played out really well, right?
All right, what's up, guys? I am joined here with Mr. Alex Kang. Alex, how are you doing today?
Hey, hey, pretty good.
Awesome, awesome. And guys, Alex over here made Alex, how much did you make in your first 3 months of closing?
The first 3 months probably made 50K, yeah.
Yeah. And I think when most people hear that, they're like, what the fuck? Like either, is this guy just like some freak of nature or like, oh, he's lying, this doesn't make any sense. Like I know that, a lot of people might be thinking a lot of different things because, making 50K your first 3 months in closing is kind of unheard of. I didn't make anything close to that. Right. For me, it was like 10K, 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 and then it took me a while to hit anywhere near close to 20K a month. But I think before we talk about, how exactly that happened, you have a very interesting story, right? So let's talk about like where you were before and how you first took the leap of faith to get into the world of entrepreneurship, and then how you went
Mm.
from, running a failed business to then becoming a very successful closer. So let's talk about how it all began.
Yeah, to keep it short and brief, I graduated with a computer science degree at uni, so I did a 4-year degree. And then obviously the natural progression for that is actually going to joining the software engineering world, right? As a software developer. And that's what I did. I did an internship and then I went into the high frequency trading space,
Right.
trading like developing programs that just develop that trade stocks and options
Mhm.
and whatever financial instruments. Um, and during that time, it was a great time. When I was there, I wanted to do the 9 to 5 because the company was very good in terms of like culture, pay, and everything. Anyone that's in that field understands like HFT is one of the is sort of is very lucrative.
Mhm.
And I was working like 9 to 12 hour days, like every single
Wow.
day, just to meet the demands of
Mm.
work because not everyone needed to do that, but I had to
Right.
because I wasn't that intelligent apparently. And that's and that's actually one of the reasons why, because I actually fell off the team, right? I got fired from the job because I wasn't meeting, I guess, the team expectations. Because you gotta understand, like these guys have like these guys are all very like creative in their solutions, and they have really high IQ.
I think they gave
Um,
like a rough IQ, right? That was like needed to stay there, which was ridiculously high.
yeah, I mean, so they had make you do an IQ test. So mine is 131, but like they are probably like 140 on average.
That's
I mean,
nuts.
that's what
Because
it
one
seems like.
131 already places you in like the top 0.0001 percentile.
Yeah, something like that. But obviously, I wasn't good enough, so
Yeah.
I wasn't that intellectual enough for them. But I mean, which is not a problem because you're dealing with financial markets. Like I'll cut people the same way. But yeah, I spent like 9 to 12 hours a day, grinding. It wasn't good enough. I got fired, and I was like, you know what? Let me go join the agency space.
I gotta give you credit, right? Obviously, it was a pretty big step to just go like, you know what, like let me not find another job because most people in your situation, for being objective, they would have been like, okay, fuck, this really sucks. I gotta get a job again. But like number
Yeah.
one, like why did you say, you know what, like screw this, let me go into something else? Like what was going on in your mind? Like what was kind of happening? And like also, how did you feel when you did initially get fired? Like give us a play by play.
So so they do something called like performance review, right?
Right.
Or something like that, right? And they really try to help you. They really do. They start like probably 8 weeks back, so they give you
Mm-hmm.
2 months notice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was still a graduate. Well, to start again, like I was a graduate student, right? A graduate role. So you're still in probation. So 2 months ahead before my like firing, they were trying to work with me, giving me tips every single 2 weeks, and they was really trying to work with me. I just couldn't make it, right? And
Right.
by that point, when I did get fired, I was just like in the room with the HR lady and like the my manager and the team lead. I'm just like, yeah, fuck it, man. I'm getting fired. Let
Yeah.
me just try something else anyway.
Yeah.
So I knew about the agency space because of like, I'm sure you guys know like Iman Gadzhi and
Yeah.
like all those things, right? That's how we all get introduced into
Yeah.
this part
Yeah.
part of the online space. And I run that. I wasn't very successful at it. I took like Charlie Morgan's course and like whatever, like Iman Gadzhi's course. And I got some kind of progression, but I wasn't making the money that I wanted to with the agency, and it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like business is a lot of work. It's not easy.
Well, here's what I
Yeah.
want to know. Like what made you think to yourself, you know what, maybe I want to get into this industry and give this industry a shot? Because a lot of people like that also come from agency backgrounds or really people in general, man, they just don't want to do sales because, they hold like negative connotations towards it.
I mean, coming from the agency space, like if you go through like Charlie Morgan's or whatever courses, right, you have some introduction to sales. It's
Yep.
not the best. They don't teach the best sales.
Hmm.
I mean, let's be real, the agency owners.
Yeah.
But you know, like no disrespect to them, right? They're good at what they're
Yeah.
doing, but in terms of sales, not so much. So I knew that, right? And then I wanted to get into it because once you have an introduction into sales, right, you realize it's really just problem solving
Yep.
at the highest
Yep.
level. It's
Yep.
just like live problem solving
Yep.
with the prospect.
Hmm.
And like that part of it just like it really intrigued me because in
Yep.
the engineering world, all you're doing is just problem solving, right? As an
Hmm.
engineer, you're just solving problems for humans, right?
Hmm.
Um, I mean, in a sales situation, you're just
Yep.
helping problems for the prospect to
Yep.
overcome their objections or their logistics or whatever to help them show that the solution that in front of them is going to get them to where they want to be,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
And basically that's all sales really is, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
have the discovery process and whatnot, but that's all sales really is, and you're just problem solving on demand. And
Yeah.
I mean, like it's just like chess, like in
Yeah.
real life chess, in my opinion.
That's how I
And that
described
just like
the discovery process to you on our call. I was like, when you get good at this, it's like you're basically playing chess with the person. And
exactly,
like looking back, man, isn't it interesting that I mean, this was at least what I thought. I don't know if you thought that too. Like before I got into sales and like, or when I was even into sales in the beginning and like before I knew anything about it, I was like, oh man, like it's basically public speaking in a way. You know what I mean? Like you gotta be like
yeah,
you gotta have a very good voice. You gotta be like very charismatic, and then you gotta just be like very good at your pitch. And I was like, oh, like that's what gets you the sale. But like, I mean, you tell me like it
yeah.
can't be further from the truth, right?
It can't be further from the truth. At one point, before I got into it, I thought I was going to do like Toastmasters. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but like Toastmasters is like public speaking, like
Mm.
just going in front of people and doing public speaking. But like you don't really need to do that, right? In terms of actually to getting good in sales. Uh, you're just having a conversation, and all you're just telling them, you're just trying to figure out problems for them. That's all you're doing.
Now, how do you think you got really good really, really fast? Obviously, that's a very broad way of saying it, but I mean, I can make that statement objectively. Because I mean, 3 months, that's not
Mhm.
normal. At this point, I've worked with 100 sales reps, and also hundreds of business owners and just teaching them sales. And like, you really stood out. So like, what do you think made you succeed within 3 months? Really fast.
Probably, well, I was a clean slate, right? I
Hmm.
was sort of like a clean slate. Sure, I have like some like understanding of like sales, or whatever, right? But I was still basically a clean slate because I didn't take that many sales calls, right?
Hmm.
And from there, you just like build up your foundation, and that's what you
Right.
helped me to do. Just help me build out the foundation of what the discovery process should look
Hmm.
like, which is 85% of the sale.
Talking about clean slate, right? So, guys, basically what Alex is saying is there's a lot of people that come in with bad habits in sales, meaning like, they've come from different industries. And what makes that very difficult is they have to break down the bad habit first, have to get rid of it first, and then they have to learn the right one. It's like being a fighter who's throwing their jab the wrong way for their whole career, right? But with Alex, he
Yeah,
came in with like just being like, all right, what do I got to do? And then he just did it essentially. Now, there was someone that you did pay before me. I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to get sued. Competitor. And, this is the exact same thing essentially, but like, they claim that they help you get placed and they teach you sales. What was your experience like there? And do you feel like you got what you wanted? And then how did that differ with what we have here? I'm just curious.
I don't think I got what well, I know I didn't get anything I wanted from there. I mean,
Hmm.
like, if you look at it right, their sales strategy is like, well, like how they teach sales is the same as like an agency owner.
Hmm.
And I mean, he was an agency owner, I believe.
Hmm.
But it's like Like that way of selling is the old model of selling, I think, as some
Yeah.
people would know it as.
Yeah.
Whereas the new model of selling is just, disarm the prospect and just make it like a conversation.
Hmm.
And then you just get to the sale, and it's just like an obvious thing to do.
Right.
Um, so yeah, even with objection handling, right?
Hmm.
Instead of being like, oh, you just told me that you wanted to do this like 30
Yeah.
minutes ago, what now?
Hmm.
Right? Even that's like old model.
Our method is a lot more like therapeutic, where essentially like we get in the prospect's head, right? And then the old method is a lot more just like aggressive, and it's like you're kind of just like butting heads together. The way that we do it, we maintain our patience, we maintain our composure, we're not getting upset, and we're just remaining calm, right? And really what we're just searching for is the truth. One of my favorite sayings, I don't know if someone said this before. If not, I want to trademark it. Always search for the truth. Don't search for the sale. In turn, you're going to get the sale, right? As you're searching for the truth. And that's basically what we're
Mm,
doing here. We're just trying to figure out like what's really going on. Whereas in the old model, you're consistently chasing the sale. You want your commission check. And because of
yeah,
that, you end up losing the sale because you end up becoming very desperate. Now,
exactly.
what I also want to talk about with you, man, was like the initial difficulties that you found in the sales process. I mean, look, we can go on about that forever. It's kind of funny now that we're pretty good
Yeah.
friends, but like, because you came in from the mindset of someone who is hyper logical, right? So when you first came in, I'm just curious, like, what were some of the things that you found a bit more difficult? And then how did it start to make a lot more sense in your brain? And when would you say you really start to get the hang of things? Where like, all right, you know what, like this is just pattern recognition. I'm seeing these patterns, these prospects, like you're putting them in different stages, and you're like, all right, I now know what I'm kind of doing right now. And that's also when your
Mhm.
conditions start to blow up. But talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I mean, at the start, so I guess like the biggest thing, the biggest shift for me is just understanding the discovery and why things happen for a certain reason.
Hmm.
Why you ask certain questions, and how can you frame it in a way so they actually answer them, right? And it's not too open-ended,
Hmm.
right? And also maintain brevity to, I guess like pace the call. But the biggest lesson is probably just like not reading off your script.
Yes.
Um, right. I mean, if I look back at it, the biggest shift for me is not just reading from a because what I did was like, this might seem obvious to you guys, but uh, it wasn't back to me because in my logical mind, it's like, oh, if you have the perfect script, right, then you could get the sale. It's about like what you say, not how you say it, but like if you can tick off all the boxes of the
Yeah.
questions, right? And that's all I was aiming to do. Um, just asking them questions one by one.
Yeah.
And it felt more like an interview of back and forth and back and forth, where it doesn't feel natural at all, right?
Mm.
But that's probably the biggest shift. And then
What's
I
what's
learned that you're just having a conversation.
what's funny is like you're not alone in that. A lot of From what I've seen, a lot of really smart people, like when they get into sales, they tend to think it's like the whole goal is to build out like the ultimate perfect script, memorize it, and then it's just a thing of like asking questions. That's it, right? Like, oh, you're just asking
Hmm.
questions and you're just going by one by one. So Gohar, right, who's obviously in our community, he's a beast doing 20K commissions, one of the best guys there. Um, when he used to see me sell and he was not a closer, like back then he's like, yeah, bro, you're very good. And now he admits, he's like, dude, back then I was like, yo, this all this guy's doing is reading a script. When I get into it, I'm gonna crush it too. And then he's like, when he then got into sales and then he learned how to do a discovery process, he was like, holy shit, like
Mm.
handling objections is easy. The discovery is what's truly hard. Because like mastering the discovery is almost impossible. Like, even though I'm very good at what I do, I haven't mastered the discovery. There's no way. I think the only person alive is probably Jeremy Miner, right? Maybe
Hmm.
Math Writer who've mastered the discovery, but like no one else. It's something that just takes like a decade. But isn't it interesting where like the discovery process, the first 15 to 20 minutes is, yeah, it's basically like high level chess. And then objection
Yeah,
handling, it's like pretty easy. Like a lot of times I'll be reviewing calls, man, and like a lot of clients are like, hey, like how could I handle this objection better? And I'm like, you should have fixed it in the discovery. Like you should have pre-handled the discovery. Like
exactly.
you cut yourself too thin, and now it's just you're kind of just arguing back and forth. It's not going anywhere.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like if objections are coming up, I mean, like not
Hmm.
the logistic ones, right?
Yeah.
The logistics you're gonna have to solve together.
Yep.
But everything else, uh, you should have solved upstream. A lot of problems are upstream than downstream.
Hmm.
So what that means is like at the start of the call as opposed to at the end of the call. At the end of the call, when you're doing objection handling, after you price drop, the sales resistance is only at its highest. And
Right.
sales resistance never comes down. It only stays or it all goes higher. At that point, it's a little bit too late to actually handle that objection, unless you did your discovery really well. That's what I mean. It's an upstream problem. So yeah, if you do your discovery well, which is I think the hardest thing,
Yeah.
in terms of sales call, then yeah, you'll probably get the sale, even if you're not that good at objection handling.
Right. And right now, like, what do you think your biggest weaknesses are?
Biggest weakness.
Not
Um,
not one weakness, because that's kind of hard, right? To say like we can just more so go
yeah.
into like weaknesses, like things that you feel like okay, how about like what are some things about your sales process that you wish that you can improve the most, right? And by the way, this doesn't have to
Uh,
be like, oh, the way I do my discovery. I mean, I think dude, even I'd say that, right? Because who doesn't want to be perfect at that? But more so like, would it be tonality? Would it be like relating more with prospects? Would it be like literally anything that comes to mind, dude? Like, what are some of the things that you wish that you
um,
could improve right now?
tonality, probably tonality.
Hmm.
Humor.
Hmm.
Humor goes such a long way
Hmm.
in sales call. Like you guys, if you guys have humor, you guys have no idea. Like,
Yeah.
um, at the highest level, humor does so much for your sales call. Probably more humor and probably like brevity.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably it. I mean, there's probably more
Dude,
that I can't think of,
if you were good at
but
those
yeah.
things, if you I was kind of just like leading you into like giving me the answer that I wanted, which you did, right? But it's funny. If you were good at those things, you'd probably be like literally unstoppable. Um, it's
Yeah.
very, very interesting because it's like for B2C sales specifically, right? Which is, the main model that I recommend basically everyone get into anyway. Um, like I know that a lot of people watching, this interview right now might just be like, oh, okay, like, it makes sense that Alex crushed it. He's just such a smart guy, blah, blah, blah. But it's like when you genuinely think about it, most people that succeed in high ticket remote sales, they actually, give it a shot. They're not the smartest people in the world. Right? This is just us being objective. They're
Yeah.
really not. A lot of these guys are actually below average intelligence or just straight up average. They just become charismatic. They know how to make jokes and they do
I
very,
think you
very.
did better if you're a little bit, I wouldn't say below average, but at least like average IQ, right?
Yeah,
I
because
think you did
you tend to not
better, right?
overthink
Yeah.
things. They tend to not overcomplicate things, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That was my mistake, like we mentioned earlier. Like I'm too analytical. I think
Yeah.
like, should I have it said it this way? I mean,
Yeah.
like, am I supposed to say it exactly this way? Can I say
Yeah.
it that way? Little words here and there. And then it's like you kind of have to shed that kind of belief, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
take more reps.
What would you say to those people who are like, dude, like I sucked at public speaking as a kid. I can't do this. Like, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
It doesn't really matter, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I guess I haven't even told you this, but so there's a couple of reasons why I got fired. One, I couldn't problem solve um at their level, and I couldn't do it fast enough. The other thing is the communications. I actually got fired for that because I wasn't able to communicate with my team properly, right? So
Yeah.
we would have this thing called stand-ups, right? Which is every morning we stand up and we review about what we did yesterday. And I
Yeah.
was horrible at it, man. Like I literally every time, every single day, I feed it so much, I would sweat in my hands, like intensely. Every time we had to do stand-ups and talk about what we did, because I was so awful at communication, right? Even though they try to help me, like teach me how to do that, right? But even then, right, I knew that coming into this, but I still wanted to learn it because every skill is learnable, right?
Right.
Um, I mean, you could be the guy that says, I don't have the communication skills, but like, then what next? You're just gonna be that guy for the rest of your life that
Yeah.
doesn't know how to communicate. I mean, all skills are like, learnable.
Yeah.
Uh, no matter how hard it is or how far away you feel like it is, it just takes reps, right?
Yep.
And communication skills, like if you do enough reps, like if you know how to, as long as you're not, too far autistic, right? Um, like literally, right? Like
Yeah.
literally, if you're too far autistic, where your IQ's too high and you're just hyper analytical, um, like in the 150 ranges, right? Um, then you can just like learn these skills.
So I mean, now at this point that, it's been 3 months, you've made 50K. you've basically developed a skill set that you're never going to lose it, and if anything, you're going to obviously get better and better as time goes on. I mean,
Hmm.
what kind of belief systems do you hold now around how money works, essentially? Because it's like, on the one end, before when you were an engineer, right? It's like your salary was ridiculously high in the six-figure range.
Yeah,
And obviously, like, when we see people online, it's like, hey, these days a very popular term is like, hey, escape the matrix and this and that's like, I'm sure you did the eye roll in the beginning. You're like, oh fuck, I hope I don't get scammed, right? Like when you first dove into the world of like making money. But like now that we
yeah,
can say, you've made it out the hood, right? It's like,
right.
like what kind of mindset have you now developed? And like, what are your thoughts around how money works, how money functions? Um, around effort, around just like people starting out. I mean, just give me the whole spiel essentially.
I mean, there's a lot of money to be shared around the world.
Hmm.
Um, you just need to know where it is and how to grab it,
Right.
right? Um, all you need is a skill, a high leverage skill, and be able to use that, and then the world will just like give you money basically.
Yeah.
As sort of like as woo-woo as it sounds, that's all it really comes down to. One, having a skill, being
Hmm.
good at it, and finding places to use that skill and get someone to pay you, right?
Yeah.
So that you can get the money.
Right.
Um, there's just an abundance amount of money, especially in the online world. That's what I
Yeah.
realized really quickly. And people are not afraid to give you money. They'll give it to you like with cash in hand, like
Hmm.
willing, very willing to give it to you. Um, so there's never gonna be that much of a shortage of money, right? You just gotta stand in the right places and position yourself in the right places.
Yep. Another thing that I want to ask you is like how hacks do you think learning sales is? Because we talked about this the other day where it's like if you for some reason felt like giving your agency another go, I think you can at this point scale it to like 10 to 20K a month pretty fast. Because even if your
Hmm.
fulfillment was bad, you
Yeah,
just
you
end
can
up
just
closing
flip
everybody.
sales. Like, who cares, right?
Yeah. Like
Um,
it doesn't matter.
yeah, I feel like that's what most people do in SMMA anyway. They sign you a contract for 3 months and they just don't care.
Yeah,
Like,
they
because
just don't
if
know
you
what they're
get
doing for fulfillment.
sales,
Yeah.
yeah. But the thing is that like, if you learn sales, you're not only learning sales, you're learning how to think and you're being very close to the business, right? So that means you're going to be close to the product. Maybe you don't know exactly like how every single thing works, but like
Mm,
why the product stands. And then you can work backwards from that, right? If you're smart
right.
enough, most of you guys are. And then also, like, you're always going to be kind of close to the marketing, like how marketing affects sales, how setting affects sales,
Right.
right? And things like that. Um, and once you understand that, you just surround the business a lot as well.
Yeah.
That's another thing. You just get a lot of experience, and you're
Yeah.
also
I've said I've
sitting
said
in,
I've said this so many times. It's like you get such a good business education if you're listening, if you're paying attention,
yeah,
right?
sales, I would say, is you're sitting in the front row of the business.
Also, Alex, so a huge part of sales is obviously, when you're working in a sales team, you get to, meet a lot of people. And sometimes it can be very toxic, right? Sometimes it can be very competitive because obviously sales is very competitive. But with you made lifelong friends, right? One of them being Om from our community, who you're gonna actually meet in Medellin. Um,
Yeah.
Potentially you guys will come to Canada to come meet me, which you better. But I mean, talk to me about
Mm.
that, man. Like talk to me about like how that was. Like why do you feel like you were able to get along so well with some of these guys? How you were able to make lifelong friends? Run me through it.
I feel like everything, damn, I don't want to say like everything happened for a reason, but like everything
Right.
just played out really well, right?
Like even in our community, right? Because obviously you met Om and a lot of these guys in our community. Dude, you were like a lone wolf, bro. You didn't fucking talk to anyone. Like super quiet. You're like just like a man on a mission. So like
Right.
run me through it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think to put it into perspective, right? I guess just to recap everything.
Yeah.
This is like the cherry on top here. So I got fired for communication and not being able to solve problems, even though I was working really hard.
Hmm.
I quit that. I did the agency space, and then I realized, I might not get a client for 3, 6, 12 months, whatever. I got into sales. I got into sales, and in a week, I got Hassan helped me land an offer, which is very, very key, right? And from
Yeah.
then, I just did really well in sales. 3 months from then, or when I actually got placed, right, 3.5 months maybe. Now from that, I grew relationships with people in the sales team, right? So
Hmm.
in particular, Gohan, Johnson, and Matthew, and whatever, right? There's
Hmm.
more, but let's just leave it at that. And then like from now, in like 6 days from now, right? I'm going to Medellin. I'm flying out to Medellin, Colombia, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna stay with right? I'm gonna live probably in Colombia for 6 months,
Yeah,
right?
wild.
Which is kind of crazy, right? And then
Yeah, it
also
is.
I'm also gonna have Johnson to come here um to Colombia, and we'll have fun, whatever, right? But like it's probably like being able to jump on that offer and have these relationships. Like to me, it's all about the relationships.
Yeah, they're
Um,
everything.
it's just crazy to think about. And the reason why I was able to build those kind of relationships because I was just trying to do my best, right?
Hmm.
Trying to learn skill sets. And, and obviously, I'm also very competitive, like all salespeople are. And like we just was like everyone there was just like a natural fit. And then we just, it just made sense for us to be friends
Yeah.
and actually like grow together in terms of sales. As to this point now, we're going to be living together for 6 months until our visa runs out. I don't know, man, but that's like
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Dude, it's
Like,
wild, man. Like it's nuts. Like when I think about the whole thing, it's just so crazy because it's like, well, number one, like, how did I meet you and right? It's like back when I was a sales rep and I was pitching you
yeah,
guys for a product, right? And it's like, it's so interesting because of also like how wrong it could have gone. Right. So for
yeah,
context, it's like with what happened with him is like I just DQ'd him anyway, and then we just started talking. Right. It's like,
mm,
like in my mind, I could have just been like, oh yeah, this was not a good fit. Let me just like leave the call. Like if that was like my last call of the day when I talked to him, I would have just left the call. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Or Om could have just been like, oh, okay, yeah, like this guy can't help me. Let me just leave. With you, it's like, I made the mistake of like, this is so stupid. But guys, like I was running late that day. And I didn't block on my calendar in time, and I was like, shit, like this seems like a very good lead. And I took the call in a car, in the backseat, which is so rude. The guys don't fucking ever do that. That's ridiculous. Right. And it's like, dude, like if you got pissed off and left that call, that would have not been ridiculous. Like you had every right to do that. You didn't do that. Right. So it's like, imagine you had done that. Right. And then it's like, then, I built this company and then, you guys ended up joining and then like, the company grew. Right. So then I was able to like find fulfillment partners, place both of you guys in that company. You guys both ended up being in that same team. It's like, it's crazy
mm,
how like everything has, because it's like you guys like, so I believe you guys talked a little bit in like our Discord community a little bit, but like the
yeah,
friendship really
very little,
unfolded.
maybe two
It
messages.
Yeah, it really unfolded like once you guys were sung on the same team, right? Which is so cool.
Yeah,
But it's like, what if you guys were not on the same pod? What if you guys were in a different pod, right?
uh-huh.
It's
Yeah,
very interesting how like everything just has to be step by step, and then it just ends up all falling into place.
yeah. I mean, that was 3 months, right? That's
Yeah,
just like 3 months. Like you gotta understand that's 3 months. Like what's gonna happen in the next 3 months
yeah,
or next 6 or 12 months? I don't know. It's
yeah.
it's pretty exciting.
It's nuts, and like also, like I don't know about you, but for me specifically, it's like just like networking with people in general. It really expanded my horizons and like what's possible and what can be done because like back in
Hmm.
the day, I viewed networking as a very transactional thing, right? Like when I was first getting started in the space, and I was like, oh, it's cringe. I just want to make my money. I don't want to fucking talk to anybody. Blah 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 blah. And then my whole mindset changed because when I started networking, I started more so like networking with the sense of building a friendship. And then like as I became friends with a lot of these people, I ended up making more money anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like as an example, the person who runs my content, right? He's one of my closest friends. And
Mm.
I got on a call with him for client acquisition.io and I was pitching him. I DQ'd him. He became a friend, he became a client. And he's an agency owner. And now like his company, runs my content. I want to go see him in the UK. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
now it's like, a lifelong friend, but also someone who, who's helping me scale my company.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool when you think about it.
I think networking is one of those things where like everyone knows, like maybe Andrew Tate talks about it, Luke Belmar, with Iman Ghazi, whatever, right? But once you think that, I feel like there's like different stages of understanding what network, like the importance of
Yeah.
networking. One stage of networking is like, oh, this is bullshit, but I understand it's kind of important. oh, I understand a little bit of it, like, how it can actually like improve your life. And then there's
Yeah,
like other levels. I'm not there yet, right?
yeah,
I still understand networking of like how important it is and how well it plays out in other, how it has
yeah,
played out in other
yep.
people's lives. So networking is very important, and because the best opportunities don't come in public, like it doesn't hit the
No, they don't.
market.
Dude, it's always in private. And we know
Or
this.
yeah,
We know this. You know, even the company they're closing for, obviously we're not gonna say their name or anything. We can talk a little bit in
yeah.
code, but it's like a lot of the guys that are there, they got there because of networking, right? Because of their inner circle.
But I mean, it's not to say that like you're not gonna find opportunity just because you're not in a network, but the best opportunities happens within a network.
All right, so Alex, to end this off, what's your one message to the person who's, in their early 20s, who, you know what, let's put them in your situation, man. Someone who tried something but failed. And, they're thinking, screw this. This isn't working. I should give up. Or they're just super lost and confused and they're like thinking, shit, like, I don't want to disappoint my parents. And that's one thing that's massive. It's like especially for, from like the Asian community, South Asian community. Honestly, everyone in general, no one wants to fucking disappoint their parents. But like, what's your message to one person who's just this close to giving up?
Just do something and just get the right guidance. Like you're not gonna be able to do it yourself. Not most of the successful people haven't done it all by themselves. They got some kind of help at some point. So just get that help. Uh, get like a mentor, right?
And how would you recommend overcoming the fear aspect?
In terms of the fee, I mean the fee is, I mean this is like objection handling fee right now, right? The fee is always
Yeah.
gonna be whether you make the decision today,
Hmm.
tomorrow, or maybe a month from now. But you're still gonna have to overcome that fee, you
Hmm.
know, no matter when you make that decision.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like you need to do today,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's
So
very
that,
interesting. Yeah.
even though you're gonna have fee, that you have you create a better life situation for yourself for the
Yeah.
next 3, 6, 12 months from now. What do you feel like you need to do? Because you don't
Yeah.
have to. Well,
Yeah.
what happens if you don't though?
Yeah. No, it's funny. Yeah,
Uh,
you guys, just objection handling training. No, but it's on a real note, man. Like it's interesting because most people what they do, the biggest mistake that they make, we were talking like we were this was when we were talking about how to handle that one objection on our call, right? Most people tend to make decisions based on their current situation, right? And
right.
like I don't know if I ever told you this story like super quick. When I was gonna make my first investment ever, right? Which was the one that changed my life. This is like when I was gonna pay Serge Guattari for the agency program, right? And then ended up discovering sales by accident.
Hmm.
Bro, I was so scared. I don't want to do it. And what's so funny is, bro, I was like 2K and I want to pay 2K. And my brother goes and he's like, all right, well, like real quick, what's like your worst case scenario in your life, man? And I'm like, well, the worst case scenario is I get my degree and I'm an accountant. And then he's like, well, why is that your worst case scenario? I'm like, because I'd only be making like 50K a year. And he's like, okay, at this point, when will you get your degree? I was like 22 at the time. I was like, dude, probably like 24, right? And he's like, okay, so you're 24, 25. Let's just say you're 30. He's like, you're 30 years old. You're maybe making 60K, a year at that point. I was gonna say a month, but I'm so used to saying that now. 60K a year with your degree. And he's like, is 2K to you a lot of money at that point? And I'm like, no. And then he's like, but do you like your life? And I'm like, no. And then he's like, okay, cool. So he's like, at that point, if it's not gonna matter anyway, and the worst case is like you're gonna just completely hate your life no matter what happens. He's like,
Yeah.
what's the worst case if you spend that 2K now? He's like, I get you that you work at Pizza Hut and it sucks, but he's like, what if you just spend that 2K now and everything changes? He's like, if nothing, and then he said this one thing that like at that point it pissed me off for a little bit, but then I realized he was right. He was like, Hassan, you're broke anyway. He's like, no offense, but your
Yeah.
fucking life sucks anyway. He's like, you work at Pizza Hut, it sucks anyway. He's like, worst comes to
Hmm.
worst, you'll lose 2K and you'll be like, all right, whatever. And then like you'll recover. It's not like you're having to pay for rent. You live at home with our parents. And I was like, hey, this guy's right. Like, what the fuck? And I went for it,
Exactly.
right? And so a lot
Hmm.
of people they tend to make decisions based on their present situation, but they don't make decisions based on the person they want to be like, right? It's like how Matt Ryder
Yeah.
says, fat people make decisions like like a fat person, and a fit person makes decisions like a fit person, which is why they tend to achieve their desired outcome
But
essentially.
they're fit, right?
Exactly,
It's
because
not,
they're
and
fit.
it's not until you start making decisions as a fit person that you can actually
Exactly,
be confident.
exactly.
So yeah, start making decisions of where you want to be,
Mm.
and then you'll eventually get there, right?
Right. Right. Fuck, this interview is so awkward. It's just funny because like me and Alex, like guys, like when we're off cameras, we're not like this, but yeah, it's like, dude,
Yeah.
how are you making this much money? How are you making high ticket remote sales, right? guys, it's literally that life-changing. With that being said, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this fun little interview, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.
All right.